welcome back to Green Planet, Blue Planet podcast. My name is Julian Guderlei, and I have the big honor and pleasure to interview Zee Zheng today. He's one of the co-founders of Spacechain. Welcome to the show, Zee.
Hi, Julian. How are you doing?
Absolutely well. I'm having a great day so far. I'm stoked to be on the line with you. Zee, tell us a little bit about Spacechain and how changing the world. You guys send up a satellite to space with a piece of blockchain, as far as I understand.
Yeah.
Try to explain it for someone like me, who's not a total expert at the topic of blockchain.
Thanks for having me. And what Spacechain does, we want to integrate space technology and blockchain technology together to utilize the advantage that we can gain from, the flexibility and also the security from blockchain, and to apply it into, promoting space industry. And what we did was actually on the February, and we worked with a quantum foundation and also a commercial space company in China. We launched a satellite with our blockchain payload, and the payload actually becomes I think it should be the first ever blockchain node in space. So that's our proof of concept satellite, and we can have 2 more launch plan this year. We're gonna launch many more to launch many more satellites to build up our own satellite network. So where we're going with this is that, so basically we're finding out that all the decentralized, so many people in the blockchain industry are building decentralized applications, but what we found out is that all the decentralized applications are built on centralized infrastructure. For example, cloud service, data storage, data transmission. All of them are very, very centralized, service provider. So, and interesting is that basically the fundamental logic is that there's no way you can build a decentralized Amazon if you're using AWS, because with your influence gets bigger and bigger, they can just cut you off anytime. And so we just found it really interesting. And so in order to hedge this kind of risk, we need a decentralized infrastructure. And if we want to build a infrastructure, but globally, it doesn't make sense if we want to do like ground network, right? Because in that case, we need to have decentralized infrastructure everywhere, which is not very cost efficient and doesn't really make much sense. So that's why we are doing satellite network, because once we have the satellite constellation, then we will have a global coverage. We will have become an alternative way to transmitting data. So we are not necessarily replacing the centralized service, but we can be an alternative and hedge the risk that are getting complete shutdown. So that's one thing we're doing. And the second thing is that we're developing something called a Spacechain OS. So the operating system will enable developers to develop their application, just like in Android phones, iOS phones, or your laptop, but it's on satellites. So you will be, if you have a developing experience, you can actually be able to access our operating system and develop your application on satellites. So it will be open source actually this month. I think on the later part of this month will be open source on GitHub. So everybody is welcome to check us out and see what kind of cool application you can make, on spacecraft. Yeah.
Amazing. So you're basically building the decentralized infrastructure instead of creating a decentralized blockchain on a centralized infrastructure. That makes a lot of sense to me. With sending your infrastructure and technology into space, are you also kind of detouring government control?
Not necessarily, because the idea is that we want to establish a standard. So as you may know that, SpaceX, OneWeb, they're all building their constellation with satellites. It's like 1,000, 2,000. So our approach is that we want to establish a standard, then having many, many different satellite companies to launch their own satellites. So for example, the total number, let's say 100, right? So for other people, what we do is that when a company try to set up this 100 satellite network, but what we're trying to do is that we produce an open source standard for satellites, software and hardware, that we can have a 50 company. Each of us launch two satellites in different location and a different, launch sites, stuff like that. So basically, we don't actually avoid any kind of regulation, but we actually embrace different regulation at different places. Because what we do is that we want to trust expertise of different companies and their local areas, right? So if you're launching in India, in America, that the launching company must obey the local laws, but at the same time, you will connect with the international, network. So whatever that fits with your scenario, you can use the service that they provided. So I think that's just very interesting. Basically, we change the industry from one company try to do all things, but become a distributed, crowdsourced like satellite network. I think that's something really interests us, and that's where we're going for.
So basically, building the world's first open source satellite network.
Yeah, and we want to make it as decentralized as possible. So I just want to add on what I said is that if one company controls this 100 satellite network, that basically it's very centralized, right? But we'll have 50 to control it. First of all, if you shut one down, it doesn't really matter to the rest can still be working. So that's pretty good in terms of security. And at the same time, you have different people to control the satellite network. So even Zee, the co-founder of Spacechain, goes crazy and want to make crazy decision. Those people don't need to really follow me and follow my instruction. So they can, within the center, within the principle of the project, they can do whatever they want. But me as a initiator cannot really necessarily to influence what they do. So I think that's just very interesting. So even they say it's like they have a lot of flexibility for themselves. At the same time, we are working together. I think that's the beauty of blockchain.
Cool, very cool. So what I hear you say is you're on the fundamental level, you're really taking the principle of a decentralized environment and guaranteeing that it's actually honoring the decentralized part. So you said you're going to open up your code base to GitHub. So when is that going to happen?
So the software part, it will be like open source before end of this month. So the first version.
Wow. So as of March 2018, people can partake in building the software?
Yeah, you can definitely start it. So, but it's open source, it's like, it's open sourced and it's like, it's a progressing, and process. And so it's going to take time to make it better and better. But the first version, we believe, is pretty solid.
Cool. Well, Zee, I think we're going really deep down a rabbit hole of specialization. I think for a lot of people, the topic blockchain is still something that they only really understand the surface. So maybe in your words, you can share with our listeners, what do you see blockchain applications kind of serve society and humanity? What are we building? What are the apps and applications we're building on the blockchain?
So you mean what kind of application should be built on blockchain that will help? Okay.
Yeah.
So just from my personal perspective, I think now a lot of application has already been made. It's a lot of gaming and a lot of like distributing, computing, and also just a lot of cool application out there. But there's no such thing, as a killer app so far. So the coolest thing we have is, we use Ethereum to issue our own tokens, and many people just do that. So that's the killer app of Ethereum. In real-time application, it's like very, very few still. So I think something interesting we're currently looking at is that, so we discovered this project called Bonic. So Bonic is actually founded by UC Berkeley. Bonic, Bonic, I think. So what they do is that actually invite different people to contribute to their computing power to calculate for gravitational waves, or try to receive signals from outside of the Earth, things like that. So we found it really interesting, but now the contributors are not as many. So we figure it's like distributed ledger without Bitcoin, right? So we actually want to create a distributed computing power for for research, for space research, but with some incentive with it. So I think that's just apply the fundamental idea of Bitcoin and also blockchain technology. Basically, you put incentivize the community members and to do a lot of great things. And just so many applications. I think we are very, very early in the industry, and there's just so many things we can do. So something we are also looking at is that, for example, our Spacechain OS is that we use a blockchain sandbox to create a secure developing environment for the developers. Okay, so that's I think that's a major application. So one of the point we're trying to hit on is that we don't think the project should work for blockchain. We see many, many new projects. They just, have this blockchain cover upon it, but doesn't really actually have the fundamentals. But we want the blockchain to serve for the project. So we have a purpose, and if the blockchain is the right technology to serve us, and we will be doing that. So I think that's the right thing when you want to make our application. Yeah.
Got it. So you want it to serve people's ideas and purpose, basically. Let me ask about purpose then, Z, because like, how did you get this crazy idea, you and your co-founders, to just send something into space? Like, is it something you've dreamt up all your life? I want to be part of the space race, or yeah. Tell me about
Okay, cool. So my co-founder, his name is Jeff Garzik. So he was the third ever Bitcoin developer. So he actually worked with Satoshi early on remotely. And also he worked at the Linux Foundation, Red Hat, and he's a board of director of Linux Foundation. So I would say he's one of the best open source engineer out there. So about 4 years ago, he posted a post on the Bitcoin Talk forum saying that Bitcoin in space, you can actually Google it. So, and he started trying to explore different things, and he, has been trying things. But however, because the money wasn't there, the industry was not mature enough to accept this crazy idea, so he didn't actually have made the launch. So about a year ago, I started founder of Quantum Patrick Dai. So we were discussing how to make the whole network more decentralized. So we came up with the idea, with the satellites, we can actually have a blockchain node in space, and started from just being pretty cool. And then we dig more and dig a lot more about how we can make it really applicable. And then we find so many use cases. Then we were connected with Jeff Garzik, my co-founder right now. So it was just clicking, So, and that's one thing. And also I was a PhD candidate in psychology at Columbia University, but I took a half, like a term off to attend Draper University in Silicon Valley. So it was founded by Tim Draper. So he mentored us told us a lot about like what's his vision about the world, how the world changes stuff. So, and he told me basically the coolest technology is blockchain, and also the coolest things he have ever invested in was SpaceX Planet, because they're exploring different things. So I think it really planted a seed in my mind and want to do something like that. Yeah, it's just a lot of coincidence plus opportunity, and just things happen.
Cool. So you kind of were connected some of the like influencers in that space and kind of the leaders in that space for a while, and that's how your curiosity was born. I like that. Let me ask you a critical question. So like, for so many people that are not in the same industry as you, how does sending things into space help us build a better Earth?
Build a better Earth. Okay, so one of the best reference I can get is that from Kennedy and his famous speech about we chose to go to the moon. Basically, he's saying going to the moon, going to space, it's not about us. Us. We want to see what's going on in the moon, but it's more about human survival in the long term. If we don't spend money, we don't spend resources like on things like this, and it's just never gonna get make any progress. And so we actually benefit a lot, so much from investing in this profound technology, because it's interesting to see that when we try to go to space, and when we invented satellite, many technology we invented to go to space actually become applicable to help the Earth to grow. For example, we're using cell phone, we're using a lot of all the GPS service is all provided by satellites, right? So if we didn't think, if we never thought about we want to send stuff up there, this just never gonna happen. So so that's actually what Spacechain is trying to do. The reason we want to create the Spacechain OS is actually to empower the developer to make their application on satellites. So when we talk satellite, most of people feel like, oh, I'm not in the same industry. It's very far away from me. It's super high end. I will never get in touch with it. So we want to lower the barrier and make everybody feel like, oh, there's a possibility I can, contribute in the industry, and that's pretty cool things to do. And at the same time, we're also in terms of business that so what the industry is. The space industry is happening right now is that the satellite manufacturer decides what application they're going to build in satellites. And it's quite often that they launch the satellite, they have the service, but they don't have the buyer yet. After it became alive in space and can provide service, then start to connect with the clients. So I don't think that's. I think it's not a very sustainable model at this moment. But so we actually want to mimic what happened with the phone to smartphone. Is that once having the Android and having the iOS, let the designer, let the application makers to make application, and they will try their best to make a solid business out of it. And what we do is we want to empower them to have this kind of opportunities. And I just couldn't imagine what kind of application they're gonna make. And let's see how that goes. Yeah, and we're excited.
Cool. Yeah, I can feel your excitement. What's your vision, Z? Like if we go out 20, 50, maybe even 100 years, do you see humanity being among the stars, kind of traveling beyond just Earth and Moon?
I don't know. Like, I think we gotta stay in the Earth for another 100 to 100 years. I'm pretty sure, most of us. But I think going to Mars, going to Moon, it's gonna be easier and easier. For sure, because I was listening to this speech made by the founder of Booms Express, Zee Zheng. So he said, it's all. Yeah, it's all about having the best people and the best resource and to figure it out. It's like a lot of things sounds impossible, but when you have the right people, when you have the smartest person on Earth to think about it, and then we allocated the best resource, then anything is possible. So the fundamentals of solving this kind of problem is all about creating consensus, right? So I'm gonna refer to Kennedy again. So after he made that speech, most people no longer think about why we need to go to the moon, but they start to think about how can we go to the moon. So that's a completely different mindset. So once you allocate the best resource and start to think about how can we get to the moon, then anything is really possible. So what Spacechain is trying to do, and also what blockchain is capable of doing, is about creating consensus, also having created this united group of interests as a humanity. Because most people, when they put the money into it, they want some returns. And if not, this project is completely not relevant to them, so they are not as incentivized to do so. So, what the blockchain, what the crypto can actually do is create this united group of interests, building up consensus, and stop thinking about why we need to do it. When we all realize this is an important problem, when we all realize it takes everybody's effort to do so, so we can actually stop worrying about that, but start focus on the work on our hand and try to make things happen. So yeah, I think that's a very interesting application in blockchain philosophically, also in terms of organizational structure. So I just find it really interesting. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that's kind of the hope for blockchain, way beyond just cryptocurrencies and just the quick way to invest money and make money, is what are we actually building for society, and how do we create a new way of governance, right? How do we create a new way of distribution and then like a more decentralized of kind of way of letting information flow, I guess, is also part of it.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, Zee, I have another question for you on a personal note. So how do you go about your days? I know you're traveling a lot. I know you're a very busy guy. I'm glad you made some time for this interview. But how do you stay in like the zone? Like, is this something you just wake up and I have to do this, or is there like a certain practice you do, or like how does your day look?
So normally, because we have team members in Singapore, Beijing, Atlanta, London, different places. So I stay in the Silicon Valley quite often. And normally what I do is I wake up about 5 a.m. to basically closing the day with our Asia team, because it will be like 8 p.m., 9 p.m. in Asia. Yeah. So I need to help them close out what they do today and summarize everything. Then I probably, if I get lucky and I figure it out pretty soon, then I will be able to get a power nap after that. If not, I probably need to attend some meetings. And most of the days, it's all about, just discuss with the team. And because we have a really, really good team and a lot of support. And so, we have a solid plan. So it just, we just plan things out very carefully. Normally in daytime, we go to interview, we talk to different partners, try to promote the project. And nighttime is probably another, it's another time zone just starts working. And so, yeah, it's all about, having the passion. It's like, so what I'm telling you, I have talked about it for like, this is my probably 2,000 times talk about this, but this project just excites me this much, so I can talk about it tirelessly. So yeah, it's all about having the passion and really believe what you want to do. And also also something I really believe, because before this, my first startup was actually in education. So I took an exit after working on that for 4 years. What I realized is that after you keep telling people about what you do, what you should know, it actually helps you understand better. So that's why I'm very keen on, telling different people about what we do, because we get different feedbacks. Then, also many people just challenge us, this doesn't make sense. But we still, I think we still have very good growth mindset. Any kind of challenge become actually eventually beneficial to us and help us to figure out what the problem is. I think this really helps me stay in Zoom, because I just feel like we are growing every day, and it's really helpful. Yep.
Powerful answer. I love that you're going so clearly into passion, right? Like when we are filled with passion and we feel like this is a purpose, as you say, you tirelessly wake up 5 a.m., no matter now, you're just there. This is what you want to build. And I think you mentioned Kennedy a couple of times, but there's a Steve Jobs quote that I love, which is, we really can't connect the dots before experience them. So like we can only connect the dots in retrospect. And so often things look crazy when we're innovating at large, but they really, really make a lot of sense 10, 20 years later. Yeah, very, very exciting to have you on the line, Zee. Maybe I'll have one more question before we hang up. So for you as a young leader in this kind of space, how is the interaction with all these like people that are part of your co-founding team, like Jeff and Tim Draper and all these other people? Like, do you feel like you're being supported by your elders, or do you feel like this is something where you always have to ask for permission? Because I know there's a lot of young, inspired people out there that they're looking for direction, right?
Okay. So I think it's all about clear and what you want to think about, what kind of position you want to play in the role. So actually, when I first, established relationship with our working relationship with Jeff, I was like, okay, we're co-founders, right? And you are this ultra famous engineer. I'm like nobody at this moment. And so how it's gonna work out? And what if we're gonna have conflict? So I knew this gonna happen, so I just want to put it like up front, right? So and he was like, "Oh, I'm the CTO, you are the CEO of, and I will give you all the advice I can, but you will be the one to make the call, and I will respect your call." So that's the best answer I can expect, right? And when I talked, Draper has been our advisor, Matt Rozak, Patrick, and Jeffrey Member, people like that. So I'm not necessarily leading them, but we are actually want to have this distributed organizational structure. So they don't necessarily listen to me, but they're available there when I need help. So it's a more of those kind of relationship. But at the same time, it's like I still be the one make the call, because I told them early on, because also they're all very experienced, right? So they are CEO at different companies. They are major investor. They are just very experienced guys, so they know how this works. So this Spacechain, at this moment, I'm the CEO, so my call matters the most. And what they do is actually being super supportive. Like, I don't think it's really about the age. It's about, what kind of ideas you can bring on the table, right? So sometimes I bring out very, very silly ideas. They just say, oh, according to my experience, this doesn't work. Then again, go back to what I said before. It's all about having the growth mindset, Mm-hmm. So I don't mind getting challenged. I don't mind, getting criticized. It's all become, it's all become my mental soup. So it's like helping me grow and it's like if they are making sense, and of course I don't mind, accept their ideas. But I have a reason that when I raise a point. But if they didn't agree, and we were still, gonna talk about it, discuss it. It's all about, communication, having the right. It's all about mindset, because I'm a psychology major, so I believe in, when you have the right mindset, it's other factors don't really matter as much. Yeah, and okay, for the young entrepreneur out there, I don't think you need to worry too much about it. It's all about just start working, because before this, I had no background in space, and I'm not technical in blockchain, although I've been in the industry for quite a bit. So many people actually challenge me about, I don't think you should be the one who started the project. But here we are, we're working. I think we're working just fine. So it's all about, pushing yourself and helping yourself, learning every day, talk to the best people to get you better, because the best people basically know have so much experience, so much insight they can share. And if you soak yourself into with them, then you can become better and better. And being young is actually advantage and disadvantage at the same time. It's people want to support you when you're young. People want you have a very good learning ability, but people are gonna criticize you because you're less relatively inexperienced. So having good compliments, like people to surround you, and is always good. So yeah, I don't know if I answer your question.
I think you're answering my question, Zee. I think it's very interesting to hear what you're saying. I have to think of both Naveen Jain, when I had him on the show, actually, he said something very similar. And also Elon Musk has kind of this way of approaching things, is when we only tend to experts, we will get very predictable answers, right? So being young and having this passion and this open mind that any idea could be the best idea, I think it's a very new way to go about projects, and it's a very innovative way based on like a very true abundance mindset that anything is possible. We can create it, dream it up, right? So I compliment you for having this like.
Just want to add one point. Want to add one quick point is that it's funny that I have no technical backgrounds, right? So sometimes my ideas are crazy, and it just doesn't make sense in physics. So that's important to have. Again, it's important to keep the balance. It's about when you don't want to be crazy, you want to be crazy, right? So it's like it's like a little, probably 20% beyond what we know. Then that's actually the best. The portion that when you have a very solid engineering team, when you have very good technical advisors, then they were like, oh, okay, this never happened, but probably we can try this. Then you need someone to support you like this, but not like, okay, we are going to capture the moon and drag it to the earth, that kind of idea, right? So I'm not saying that's gonna happen, but it's just like it's gonna be like far away. So you want to make sense in business and also technically at the same time. So yeah, again, it's about gathering very solid people around you, and so your idea can be accomplished. It just like it doesn't stay in the idea part, because many people, I think heavy idea is just overvalued itself. Heavy idea itself is just overvalued. I stay in San Francisco all the time, and I talk to different people, and everybody believes they have the smartest ideas. And but the same idea they'll just like be probably 100 people thinking about the same time. It's all about execution, who move fast, who can get the best resource, and to make it happen. Yeah, that's just my take.
Wonderful. Thanks for sharing your take with us. I think this is extremely valuable to people out there. Everyone has ideas, as you say. Surrounding yourself with really like knowledgeable people, open-minded people, and stepping into action. I think this is something I'm realizing in my own life every day, and people are learning from people like Tony Robbins or others out there. Stepping into action is where the gold really lies, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Zee, thank you so much for your time. You have a wonderful rest of your day in Seoul, in Korea. I bet you're busy connecting with people over there.
Yeah, it's 11:43 p.m. I'm probably going to go sleep after this.
Okay. We're 12 hours apart. It's just 11:43 a.m. over here.
Nice. Technology really works, huh? Can connect people like this. Okay, it's great. Also, let me do one quick promotion. Absolutely. You can check us out at spacechain.com. If you have any question you're interested, you can send an email to zeezheng@spacechain.com. That's my working email. You can also send info@spacechain.com. That's our public email. So yeah, and please contact us if you're interested. Yeah.
Cool. I hope you had a good time with this half-hour episode with Zee Zheng from Spacechain.com. I hope you also learned a bit or a thing or two on the topic of blockchain. I certainly did. And in the theme of blockchain, I'm actually going to host some more interviews showcasing different social applications, different currencies, and different experts in the field of blockchain and cryptocurrencies. So stay tuned. Have a look at the website, greenplanet-blueplanet.com, or check the podcast out on Facebook, Green Planet Blue Planet Podcast. Wherever you are, have yourself a fabulous day. Thank you for tuning in.